Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Okja, which is a South Korean and American co-production from 2017 that was directed by Joon-ho Bong, who is one of the most talented and reliable directors in the world today, in my opinion. Now, this is a genre bender that could be probably classified as a drama, comedy, thriller hybrid. And here's the official plot synopsis for you. For 10 idyllic years, young Mija has been caretaker and constant companion to Okja, a massive animal and an even bigger friend, at her home in the mountains of South Korea. But that changes when a family-owned multinational conglomerate, Mirando Corporation, takes Okja for themselves and transports her to New York, where image-obsessed and self-promoted CEO Lucy Mirando has big plans for Mija's dearest friend. With no particular plan, but a single-minded in intent, Mija sets out on a rescue mission. But her already daunting journey quickly becomes more complicated when she crosses paths with disparate groups of capitalists, demonstrators, and consumers, each battling to control the fate of Okja, while all Mija wants to do is bring her friend back home. So the lead actress here is Seo-hyun, who has had a small handful of supporting roles in prior South Korean films and television series, but never really stuck out to me personally. I've seen a few of the stuff she's been in. She's actually very good in Okja. I liked her quite a bit because she portrays a determined, responsible girl who is also quite likable. Performances by Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal, on the other hand, are extremely over the top, to say the least. Swinton does come off fairly well during the opening scene, which is pretty energetic and interesting, but after that I just got sick of her. She's not good in this. In similar fashion, Gyllenhaal was almost bearable early on. Almost bearable, but he gets progressively unwatchable as the film rolls along. This is truly an atrocious performance with, no nuance to it whatsoever. The guy's he's a shallow loon in this movie, and he takes up a little bit too much screen time, in my opinion. Not a big surprise, given this actor's history. I've never been a fan of this guy, and I probably never will be. But thankfully, Okja exhibits some of the usual positives you get with Bong's films. So you have the genre-bending experience, as I mentioned, with lots of quirky, partially awkward humor that this director seems to be drawn to. I think it takes a little bit of time to get used to Bong's sense of humor. If you're not familiar with his sense of humor, you may wonder at times if you're supposed to laugh or not during certain scenes. Because of this, the comedy usually clicks better after a repeat viewing with his films, I find. But I will say that most of the humor in Okja worked well, even after a first viewing. So that's a positive. The film showcases some very nice natural environments early on in South Korea, which is an added bonus. The score is mostly light and kind of hard to explain. It's almost like something you'd hear at maybe a circus or a polka dance. Those are the things that came to mind. I like the music, though. I'm not sure if that was really an accurate description. Special effects are also quite impressive for the animal. One highlight involving the special effects is a lengthy chase escape sequence that occurs during the first hour. Probably the most entertaining part of the film, and you see little clips of that in the trailer. So what are some things that I did not like? Well, I already mentioned Swinton and Gyllenhaal's lackluster performances, but I also think that there are some pacing issues. Okja does begin with a 30-minute setup period, which I actually thought was quite interesting, and then it throws us into that highlight thriller sequence. So the opening hour of this movie is truly entertaining stuff. Typical Bong entertainment value here. However, the pacing does drag during the second half, I thought, or whenever Gyllenhaal's on screen. The excitement kind of drops off, and that consequently exposes the shallow messages of the film. And that kind of brings me to my next point here. One trend that I've noticed with Bong's last few films is that his messages are getting less nuanced and more heavy-handed. For example, I enjoyed Snowpiercer quite a bit, but one of the problems I had with that one is that it had some absurdly heavy-handed and cartoonish moments that really just tried to hammer home its message with blunt force, you know what I mean? Okja suffers possibly even more so from the same problems because the antagonists are pure caricatures and there's not as much pure entertainment value surrounding the message itself. In Snowpiercer, there's constant dangers around every corner. There's crazy sets in every different train compartment that they go to. So the message at some points is drowned out by the pure entertainment value, and I think that helped that film. Okja really doesn't have that benefit. I really hope that this doesn't become a trend for this director. It would be a shame if he ended up like James Cameron, a man who is well on his way to wasting 25 years of his directing career making Avatar movies. Or he could end up like Michael Mann, another legendary director who fell off a cliff because he became obsessed with making digital film look great, instead of creating interesting characters or stories like he used to do. And this kind of thing happens more often than you might think. Some directors get so obsessed with certain things that they develop a kind of tunnel vision, and that ignores all the other important aspects of making a good film. So you may think it's a bit of an overreaction here, especially considering how Bong still has yet to make a bad film. In my opinion, he hasn't. But I can see it coming if he doesn't right the ship. His next film's going to be very important, I think, because if he keeps beating people over the head with increasingly blunt message films, it's going to bite him in the rear end, because the message itself will end up superseding the filmmaking quality, and I can already see it starting to happen in Okja. But with all that said, it is a moderately entertaining affair for the reasons I mentioned. It's got enough positives to it, and it is generally entertaining. But there's no question in my mind that it's Bong's least impressive film to date. Now, if you have not seen Joon-ho Bong's prior films that he made before Snowpiercer, I implore you to watch every single film that this man has made. And his filmography is very small, so there's no excuse. You only got like 4 or 5 films to watch there. So, yes, Okja is currently available on Netflix streaming, just dropped today, and I do moderately recommend it. And as always, I will see you next time.